The strategy that made Rockefeller rich. The one strategy that changed everything. My friend, let me ask you something profound. What if I told you that John D. Rockefeller, the man who built a $400 billion fortune, didn't succeed because he worked harder than everyone else? What if the secret to his wealth wasn't intelligence, wasn't connections, wasn't even luck? What if everything came down to one strategy, one approach, one way of thinking about business and money that separated him from every single competitor who ever challenged him? Here's the truth that nobody tells you. While others were chasing quick profits, Rockefeller was playing a completely different game. A longer game, a smarter game, a more strategic game. And that game, that one fundamental approach, made him the wealthiest person in modern history. Think about it for a moment. Really think about it. Rockefeller started with almost nothing. No inheritance, no advantages, no rich family backing him, no trust fund, no connections. Just a 16-year-old boy with a basic education looking for work in Cleveland, Ohio. 50 years later, he controlled 90% of America's oil industry. He had accumulated more wealth than anyone in human history up to that point. His fortune, when adjusted for inflation, exceeded Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk combined. All three of them together. How? One strategy. One consistent approach applied relentlessly, systematically, intelligently for decades. Not luck, not chance. Strategy. Poor people chase money without strategy. Rich people execute strategy that generates money. Poor people want quick wins and immediate gratification. Rich people build systems that compound over decades. And Rockefeller? He built the greatest wealth creation system the world had ever seen. Today, you're learning that strategy. The exact approach that transformed a broke teenager from a modest family into the richest man in America. The same strategy that modern billionaires still use today. The same approach that you can apply to build your own wealth. And here's what's exciting, my friend. This strategy isn't complicated. It isn't reserved for geniuses with Ivy League educations. It isn't something that requires millions in starting capital. It's systematic, it's logical, it's replicable, it's proven across industries and centuries. If this is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button right now, because we're building a community of people who understand that wealth isn't about luck or lottery tickets. It's about strategy. It's about systematic execution. It's about thinking differently than the broke masses, and I want you to be part of this movement. Here's what we're covering today. The core strategy Rockefeller used to dominate his industry. Why it worked when everyone else's approaches failed. How he applied it across his entire business empire step by step. The mindset behind the strategy that made execution possible. The specific moves he made and why they mattered. And most importantly, how you can use the same approach to build wealth in your own life today. This isn't theory from a business school textbook. This isn't motivational fluff that makes you feel good but provides no value. This is the actual strategy that created the greatest fortune in American history. And we're breaking it down so you can understand it, internalize it, and apply it. Let's dive in. The strategy. Vertical integration explained. Here's the strategy that made Rockefeller rich. And once you understand it, really understand it at a deep level, you'll see why it was so devastatingly powerful. You'll see why his competitors couldn't match him. You'll see why it still works today. Vertical integration. That's the technical term. But let me explain what it actually means in simple, practical language that anyone can understand. Most businessmen in Rockefeller's era did one thing. They focused on one piece of the puzzle. One step in the process. One link in the chain. They drilled oil, or they refined oil, or they transported oil, or they sold oil. One piece of the chain, one part of the process, one specialty. Rockefeller did all of it. He controlled every single step from the oil deep in the ground to the kerosene burning in your lamp at night. Drilling, refining, transportation, distribution, sales, marketing, everything. The entire process from start to finish. This is vertical integration, controlling the entire supply chain, owning every step of the value creation process, eliminating dependencies on others. And this strategy, this one fundamental approach, is what made him absolutely unstoppable in his industry. Here's why this was so devastatingly powerful, my friend. When you control every step, you control your costs at every level. You control your quality at every stage. You control your timeline completely. You don't depend on anyone else. You don't have vulnerabilities. You don't have weak points in your armor. Think about a typical oil businessman in 1870. Let's call him John. John owned a refinery. That was his business. He bought crude oil from independent drillers. He paid railroads to transport his refined oil to market. He sold his products to independent distributors who then sold to retailers. At every single step, someone else controlled part of his business. Someone else made decisions that affected his profitability. Someone else took a significant cut of his potential profits. If drillers decided to raise prices because of increased demand, John's costs went up immediately and he couldn't do anything about it. If railroads increased their shipping rates because they had a monopoly on transportation, John's margins shrank and he had no alternatives. If distributors demanded better terms because they had market power, John's profits disappeared and he had to comply or lose market access. John was at the mercy of everyone else in the chain. His business was vulnerable at multiple points. His profits were determined not just by his own efficiency, but by the pricing decisions of numerous other parties. He was playing a game he couldn't fully control. But Rockefeller? He owned it all. He bought oil fields directly, so he controlled his crude oil supply and costs completely. He built his own pipelines, so he didn't need railroads and their monopolistic pricing. He created his own distribution network, so he didn't need middlemen taking margins. He even built his own barrel-making factories, so he wasn't dependent on barrel manufacturers. Every dollar that would have gone to someone else in the supply chain stayed in his pocket. Every efficiency he created in one part of the process multiplied across the entire chain. Every improvement in one area strengthened and supported every other area. The system reinforced itself. This is the power of vertical integration. This is the logic behind the strategy. And this is why Rockefeller got astronomically rich while his competitors struggled to survive. Poor people do one thing and depend on others for everything else. Rich people control the entire process from beginning to end. Poor people pay margins to others at every step. Rich people keep profits at every step. Poor people are vulnerable to price changes from suppliers and customers. Rich people control their own destiny. Let me give you a concrete example of how this played out in real numbers. A typical refinery owner in 1870 paid approximately $2 per barrel to transport refined oil by railroad from Cleveland to New York. This was the standard rate. Everyone paid it. It was just a cost of doing business. Rockefeller negotiated special rates because he shipped massive volume and could guarantee consistent business. He got his rate down to $1.50 per barrel. That was already an advantage. But he didn't stop there. That's not how strategic thinkers operate. He built pipelines. His own pipelines. Massive infrastructure investment, expensive initially, but strategic long-term. Now his transportation cost dropped to 50 cents per barrel. 50 cents. His competitors still paid $2. He paid 50 cents. That's a $1.50 advantage per barrel. Now multiply that by thousands of barrels per day. Multiply that by 365 days per year. Multiply that by decades of operation. The savings were absolutely astronomical. Millions upon millions of dollars in competitive advantage. And that was just one piece of the vertical integration strategy. He did the exact same thing with barrel making. Competitors bought wooden barrels from manufacturers at market prices. Rockefeller built his own barrel factory. He vertically integrated into barrel production. He cut his barrel costs in half while simultaneously ensuring quality and supply. Another massive competitive advantage that his competitors couldn't match. He did it with distribution networks, with storage facilities, with every single aspect of the business. Each vertical integration move gave him a cost advantage over competitors. And when you multiply small advantages across the entire supply chain, when you compound these efficiencies at every single step, you create absolutely unstoppable competitive power. Think about it, my friend. His competitors couldn't compete. They simply couldn't. The mathematics didn't work. They paid more for everything: transportation, storage, barrels, distribution, raw materials, everything. Rockefeller's costs were so much lower that he could sell oil products for less than it cost his competitors to produce them and still make enormous profits. This is how he dominated the industry. This is how he drove competitors out of business or forced them to sell their companies to him at bargain prices. This is how he built a monopoly that controlled 90% of American oil. Not through luck, not through unfair practices alone, through strategic vertical integration that gave him insurmountable competitive advantages that others simply could not replicate without massive capital and decades of time. Here's what you need to understand at a fundamental level. Vertical integration wasn't about getting big for the sake of being big. It wasn't about ego or empire building just for show. It was about getting efficient. It was about eliminating wasteful middlemen who added no value. It was about controlling costs at every level. It was about creating competitive advantages that others couldn't match no matter how hard they tried. And this strategy, this fundamental approach to business, is still completely relevant today. You might not be in the oil business. You probably aren't building refineries and pipelines. But the principle applies to any business, any venture, any wealth-building strategy you might pursue. The more of the value chain you control, the more profit you keep for yourself. The more steps you own, the more advantages you create. The more integration you achieve, the more wealth you build over time. This is universal. This is timeless. This is how empires are built. So here's your first action step. Look carefully at your business or income source. What parts of the value chain do you not control? What middlemen are taking cuts of your potential profits? What steps could you bring in-house to increase efficiency and profitability? What dependencies make you vulnerable? This is thinking like Rockefeller. This is strategic thinking. This is the approach that builds lasting wealth instead of temporary income. This is how you transform from someone who earns money to someone who builds systems that generate wealth. Remember this, my friend. Vertical integration controls costs at every level. It eliminates wasteful middlemen. It creates multiple competitive advantages that compound. It multiplies profits across the entire chain. This is the core strategy. This is what made Rockefeller the richest man in America. This is what you need to understand and apply. The mindset behind the strategy. Now, let's talk about the mindset that made this strategy possible. Because vertical integration wasn't just a business tactic that Rockefeller stumbled upon. It wasn't luck. It wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate strategy that emerged from a particular way of thinking, a particular way of seeing the world and business. And here's what's crucial. The strategy doesn't work without the mindset. You can understand vertical integration intellectually. You can know all the theory. But without the right mindset, you won't execute it successfully. The mindset is the foundation. The strategy is the structure built on that foundation. Most businessmen in Rockefeller's era were short-term thinkers. They wanted profits now, today, this quarter, this year. They wanted to maximize this year's return and take money out of the business. They optimized for immediate gains that they could spend and enjoy. Rockefeller thought completely differently. He thought long-term, multi-decade long-term. He was willing to sacrifice short-term profits, significant short-term profits, to build long-term competitive advantages that would pay dividends for decades. He invested profits back into vertical integration instead of taking them out as personal income or dividends. This is the first critical mindset difference, and it's absolutely crucial to understand. Short-term thinking versus long-term thinking. Immediate gratification versus delayed gratification. Quick wins versus sustainable advantages. When Rockefeller bought oil fields, he spent enormous amounts of cash. When he built pipelines, he spent even more cash. When he created distribution networks, warehouses, barrel factories, every integration move required massive capital investment. In the short term, these investments reduced his visible profits on paper. His competitors looked more profitable in the immediate term. They were taking money out. He was putting money back in. But Rockefeller wasn't thinking about this year's profit and loss statement. He wasn't worried about how things looked this quarter. He was thinking about 10 years from now, 20 years, 50 years. He was building a system that would generate absolutely massive profits for decades into the future. He was thinking legacy, not quarterly earnings reports. Think about it, my friend. While his competitors were buying nice houses and living well off their profits, Rockefeller was reinvesting everything into building competitive moats. While they were optimizing for today, he was building tomorrow's empire. While they were spending, he was investing. While they were consuming, he was compounding. And what happened? Within 2 decades, Rockefeller's competitors were either out of business or working for him. They had nice temporary profits. He had a permanent empire. They had short-term gains. He had long-term wealth. They were employees or bankrupt. He was the richest man in America. Poor people think quarter to quarter. Rich people think decade to decade. Poor people optimize for immediate returns they can spend. Rich people build long-term competitive moats that generate returns forever. Poor people want to enjoy profits now. Rich people want to build wealth that lasts generations. Here's the second critical mindset element: systems thinking. This is huge. This is how Rockefeller saw things differently than everyone else in his industry. Rockefeller didn't see his business as separate, independent pieces that happened to be connected. He didn't think, I have a refining operation, I have some oil fields, I have some transportation. That's not how his mind worked. He saw it as one integrated system where every single part affected every other part, where optimizing one piece created advantages in other pieces, where the whole was far greater than the sum of the individual parts. When he bought oil fields, he wasn't just securing crude oil supply. That was one benefit, but it wasn't the only one. He was also ensuring quality control of the raw material. He was also creating negotiating leverage with railroads because he controlled more volume. He was also positioning for future pipeline routes because he knew where the oil was. He was also gathering geological knowledge that informed future acquisitions. One move created multiple strategic advantages that cascaded through the entire system. This is systems thinking. Everything connects. Everything influences everything else. You don't optimize individual parts in isolation. You optimize the entire system as an integrated whole. Local optimization often creates global sub-optimization, but Rockefeller understood system-level optimization. Most people think linearly. Step A leads to step B leads to step C. Rockefeller thought systematically. Everything is connected. Everything affects everything. Change one variable and 10 other things change. Optimize the system, not just the components. Most people optimize locally. Make this one piece as good as possible without considering impacts elsewhere. Rockefeller optimized globally. Make the entire system as efficient and profitable as possible, even if individual pieces look suboptimal in isolation. And that difference in thinking, that fundamental difference in how he saw and analyzed his business, created a difference in wealth of literally billions of dollars. Systems thinking was the lens through which vertical integration became obvious and necessary. Here's the third crucial mindset element: patience combined with urgency. This seems contradictory, but it's not. It's the perfect balance that creates sustainable empire building. Rockefeller was incredibly patient about building his empire. He took decades. He didn't rush. He didn't try to build everything overnight. He didn't make reckless moves because he was impatient for results. He built carefully, deliberately, and systematically over 40 years. But within that long-term patience, he had absolutely fierce urgency about execution. When he decided to buy a competitor, he moved fast. When he saw an opportunity to integrate vertically, he acted immediately. When market shifted, he adapted quickly. He didn't hesitate. He didn't overthink. He didn't procrastinate. Patient strategy, urgent execution. Long-term vision, short-term action. This is the paradox of empire building. This is how wealth is created sustainably. Poor people are impatient about results but slow to execute. They want to be rich tomorrow, but they take years to start. They dream big, but act small. Rich people are patient about results but fast to execute. They know wealth takes decades, but they don't waste a single day. They think big and act big. Rockefeller embodied this perfectly. He knew that building a dominant oil empire would take decades. He accepted that. He was patient about the timeline, but he didn't waste time. Every day, every week, every month, he was executing. He was making acquisitions. He was building infrastructure. He was integrating. He was acting with fierce urgency within a patient, long-term framework. Think about your own mindset, my friend. Really think about this honestly. Are you thinking long-term, or are you optimizing for this year? Are you willing to sacrifice short-term gains for long-term advantages? Are you seeing systems or just individual pieces in isolation? Are you patient about outcomes but urgent about action? This mindset, this particular way of thinking about business and wealth building, is what made vertical integration possible for Rockefeller. Without long-term thinking, he would have taken profits instead of reinvesting in integration. Without systems thinking, he wouldn't have seen the integration opportunities and how they compounded. Without patient urgency, he wouldn't have executed effectively over decades. The strategy was vertical integration, but the mindset made the strategy actually work in practice. You need both. Strategy without mindset fails because you won't execute properly. Mindset without strategy is just philosophy that never becomes reality. So here's your action step for this chapter. Adopt the mindset before you try to implement the strategy. Start thinking long-term, at least 10 years out. Start seeing systems instead of isolated pieces. Look for connections and cascade effects. Start combining patience about outcomes with urgency about action. Accept that wealth takes time, but don't waste a single day. Train your mind to think like Rockefeller thought. Develop the mental frameworks that made his strategy successful. The mindset is the foundation. Build it first. Build it strong. Then the strategy becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Remember, long-term thinking enables big investments that pay off later. Systems thinking reveals integration opportunities others miss. Patient urgency creates sustainable execution over decades. The mindset is the foundation. The strategy is the structure. You need both. How Rockefeller applied the strategy. Now let's get intensely practical. How exactly did Rockefeller apply vertical integration? What specific moves did he make? In what order? Why did he make those choices? What can we learn from his execution that we can apply today? This is where theory becomes practice. This is where understanding becomes action. This is where it gets really interesting, because we're going to break down the actual playbook that Rockefeller used to build his empire. Move 1. Start with the core. Master one thing first. Rockefeller didn't try to do everything at once. He didn't wake up one day and say, "I'm going to control the entire oil industry from top to bottom immediately." That's not how strategic building works. He started with refining. This was the core, the most profitable part of the oil business, the place where the most value was created. He didn't try to drill oil and refine it and transport it and distribute it all simultaneously from day one. He focused on one thing first. Why refining? Because this is where value is actually created in the oil business. Crude oil coming out of the ground is essentially worthless. It's dirty, it's hard to handle. It can't be used for anything in its natural state. Refined oil products, kerosene for lighting, gasoline for engines, lubricants for machinery, these are valuable. The refining process creates the value. Control the refining, control the profits. Poor people start everywhere at once. They scatter their attention and resources. They try to do 10 things simultaneously. They spread themselves thin. They never achieve excellence in anything. Rich people master the core first. They dominate one area completely before expanding. They build a foundation of excellence. Rockefeller built the best refinery in Cleveland. Not just a good refinery, the best one. The most efficient. The most technologically advanced. The most productive per dollar of capital invested. The most profitable per barrel processed. He mastered the core business of refining before he did anything else. This is profound wisdom that most people miss. Don't try to vertically integrate before you've mastered your core business. Don't try to control the entire value chain when you haven't even perfected one link in the chain. Master the core. Become excellent. Become the best. Then expand from that foundation of strength. If Rockefeller had tried to buy oil fields and build pipelines and create distribution networks before he was an excellent refiner, he would have failed. He would have been mediocre at everything. But because he mastered refining first, he built from strength. He expanded from competence. He integrated from a position of power. Move 2. Backward integration. Secure your inputs. Once Rockefeller dominated refining in his region, once he was clearly the best refiner and his operation was running smoothly and profitably, he integrated backward. He bought oil fields. He secured crude oil supply. He controlled his inputs. Why? Because your suppliers ultimately control your business if you don't control your supply. If crude oil prices spike because of supply constraints or speculation, your profits vanish overnight, and you can't do anything about it. If suppliers decide to favor your competitors with better prices or priority delivery, you're at a disadvantage. If supply becomes unreliable, your entire business is threatened. Control your supply, control your destiny. He didn't just buy one oil field. He didn't put all his eggs in one basket. He bought multiple fields in multiple regions. He diversified his supply sources. He ensured that he was never dependent on any single supplier or any single geographic area. This is strategic thinking about risk management and supply chain security. Poor people stay dependent on suppliers and hope those suppliers treat them fairly. Rich people become their own supplier and eliminate the dependency. Poor people negotiate with suppliers from weakness. Rich people control supply and negotiate from strength. By controlling his crude oil supply, Rockefeller achieved multiple advantages simultaneously. He ensured consistent supply for his refineries. He locked in costs so he wasn't vulnerable to price volatility. He gained negotiating leverage with other refiners because he could sell them crude. He gathered valuable information about oil reserves and geology. One move, multiple strategic benefits. That's systems thinking in action. Move 3. Forward integration. Control distribution. Next, Rockefeller integrated forward in the value chain. He built distribution networks across the country. He created his own sales channels. He controlled how his refined products reached end customers. He owned the relationship with the market. Why? Because distributors control your market access if you don't control distribution. They determine which products get promoted to customers. They decide what margins they'll accept. They have the power to favor competitors. They own the customer relationship. They determine your success in the market. Take that power back through forward integration. He built storage facilities in major cities across the United States. He created relationships directly with retailers. He established Standard Oil as a household name that customers recognized and trusted. He owned the final mile to the customer. He controlled pricing to end users. He captured the retail margin that had previously gone to independent distributors. Poor people let distributors and retailers control market access. They're grateful just to get their products on shelves. Rich people build direct customer relationships. They own the distribution channel. They control market access. They keep the margins that distributors would have taken. By controlling distribution, Rockefeller could ensure his products had premium shelf space. He could ensure competitive pricing. He could ensure product quality throughout the chain. He could gather market intelligence directly from customer feedback. He could respond quickly to market changes. He was no longer dependent on middlemen who might or might not represent his interests effectively. Move 4. Horizontal integration. Consolidate the industry. While vertically integrating, while he was buying oil fields and building pipelines and creating distribution networks, Rockefeller simultaneously integrated horizontally. He bought competitor refineries across the country. He consolidated the refining industry. He achieved massive economies of scale. Why? Because scale creates negotiating power that individual operators can never match. One refinery with modest volume has very little leverage with railroads or suppliers. 40 refineries combining their volume have enormous leverage. They can demand and receive special rates. They can negotiate exclusive deals. Scale multiplies the benefits of vertical integration exponentially. He offered competitors a simple choice. Sell your refinery to Standard Oil at a fair price and we'll make you wealthy. Or compete against our superior efficiency and vertical integration and eventually go bankrupt. Most chose to sell. It was the rational choice. Fighting was futile. He consolidated the refining industry systematically, region by region, city by city. Cleveland first, then Pittsburgh, then New York, then Philadelphia, then the entire East Coast, then the Midwest, then the entire country. He built a nationwide refining monopoly through horizontal integration combined with vertical integration. This is ruthless but highly effective strategy. Consolidate the industry, achieve dominant scale, multiply advantages, eliminate competition, build a monopoly. Then use that monopoly position to generate enormous profits for decades. Poor people are satisfied with small, local operations. Rich people consolidate industries. Poor people compete against each other and all lose. Rich people eliminate competition through acquisition and all win. Move 5. Geographic expansion. Finally, Rockefeller expanded geographically while maintaining complete vertical integration everywhere. He didn't just dominate Ohio, he built refineries in multiple cities and states. He secured oil fields in multiple regions. He created distribution networks that covered the entire nation. He vertically integrated across the entire country from coast to coast. This is empire building at the highest level. Not satisfied with dominating one region, not content with being the biggest in one state. Building a nationwide vertically integrated empire that controlled the entire oil industry from the ground to the consumer everywhere. He replicated his vertically integrated model in every market he entered. Buy the best refineries or build new ones. Secure local oil supply. Build local distribution. Control the entire value chain in each geographic market. Then, connect all the regional operations into one national system with shared resources and coordinated strategy. Poor people stay local and never think beyond their immediate area. Rich people expand nationally and then internationally. Poor people are satisfied with one location. Rich people build everywhere simultaneously. Each of these 5 moves, mastering the core, backward integration, forward integration, horizontal consolidation, geographic expansion, worked together synergistically. Each move strengthened every other move. The strategy compounded its own effectiveness. And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. Rockefeller did this systematically, not randomly, not opportunistically, not by accident, systematically. Each move was carefully planned. Each acquisition was strategically evaluated. Each integration was purposefully executed. Each decision fit into a comprehensive, long-term plan. He had a vision of complete vertical integration nationwide, a clear mental picture of the end state, and he executed that vision step by step, year by year, decade by decade. This is how empires are built. Clear vision plus systematic execution plus long-term patience equals unstoppable success. So here's your action step. Can you apply this 5-move sequence to your business or wealth building? Can you master your core first before expanding? Can you integrate backward to secure critical inputs? Can you integrate forward to control distribution and customer relationships? Can you achieve scale through strategic consolidation? Can you expand geographically while maintaining quality and integration? Think strategically about these questions. Don't just react to opportunities. Plan systematically. Execute deliberately. Think like Rockefeller thought. Move like Rockefeller moved. Build like Rockefeller built. This is how wealth is created at scale. Remember, master the core first. Excellence before expansion. Integrate backward to control supply. Eliminate supplier dependency. Integrate forward to control distribution. Own the customer relationship. Consolidate horizontally for massive scale. Multiply advantages through size. Expand geographically while maintaining integration. Build a true empire. Execute systematically, not randomly. Vision plus planning plus execution. Why this strategy still works today. Now here's where it gets really exciting and immediately relevant to your life right now. This strategy, vertical integration, isn't just historical. It's not outdated. It's not something that only worked in Rockefeller's era. It's more relevant today than ever before. Look carefully at the wealthiest people and companies in the world today. Study them. Analyze what they're doing. They're all using vertical integration. Every single one of them. They're all following Rockefeller's basic strategy. They might not call it vertical integration, they might use different terminology, but they're doing exactly what Rockefeller did, just in different industries with modern technology. Amazon and Jeff Bezos. Amazon started as a simple online bookstore. Jeff Bezos could have stayed focused on being a retailer. Just buy books from publishers and sell them online. That was the business model initially. But Bezos studied Rockefeller. He understood vertical integration. He applied the same strategy to e-commerce that Rockefeller applied to oil. Now Amazon controls the entire e-commerce value chain. They have their own warehouses everywhere, their own delivery network that rivals FedEx and UPS, their own cloud infrastructure, AWS, that powers not just Amazon but much of the internet. They even design and manufacture their own products. Amazon Basics, Kindle, Echo, Ring. Complete vertical integration in e-commerce. Jeff Bezos became one of the wealthiest people in the world. How? Same strategy as Rockefeller. Different industry, different century. Same fundamental approach. Same results. Massive, sustained wealth. Tesla and Elon Musk. Tesla started making electric cars. Elon Musk could have focused just on car manufacturing, buy batteries from suppliers, use existing charging infrastructure, just make good electric vehicles. But Musk understands vertical integration. He studied history. He knows how empires are built. Now Tesla makes their own batteries in gigafactories. They build their own charging network, the supercharger network that spans continents. They create solar panels and home battery systems. They're integrating the entire sustainable energy value chain, from energy generation to storage to usage. Vertical integration. Elon Musk is one of the wealthiest people in history. How? Following Rockefeller's playbook. Control the value chain. Eliminate dependencies. Build competitive advantages through integration. Same strategy, modern application. Apple and Steve Jobs. Apple under Steve Jobs became the most valuable company in the world through vertical integration. They don't just design products. They manufacture their own processors and chips. They run their own retail stores worldwide. They control the software and the hardware completely. They manage their own app ecosystem. End-to-end integration that creates a seamless customer experience and massive profit margins. Steve Jobs explicitly studied and admired Rockefeller's approach. He wanted to control the customer experience completely. No dependencies, no middlemen, no compromises. Complete integration. And it created one of the most valuable companies in human history. Poor people do one thing and depend on everyone else. Rich people build integrated systems that they control. Poor people accept standard industry structures. Rich people restructure entire industries through vertical integration. Poor people work within the system. Rich people build new systems. Here's why this strategy still works and why it's timeless. The fundamental logic hasn't changed. Middlemen still extract value while adding little. Dependencies still create vulnerabilities. Integration still creates competitive advantages. Supply chain control still matters. The principles are absolutely timeless because they're based on fundamental business logic. But here's what's dramatically different and exciting today. Vertical integration is more accessible than ever before in history. You don't need to be a billionaire to start. You don't need massive initial capital. You don't need to build physical infrastructure. You can start integrating using technology, using the internet, using modern tools that didn't exist in Rockefeller's time. Let me give you practical, actionable examples for regular people building wealth and businesses. Example 1. Content creation business. Poor approach. Create content. Post it on YouTube. Let YouTube take 55% of ad revenue. Depend entirely on YouTube's algorithm recommendations. Depend entirely on their payment system. Depend entirely on their platform rules. Hope they don't change policies. No control. Complete dependency. Rockefeller approach. Create content on YouTube as one channel, but also build your own website. Capture email addresses directly from your audience. Create and sell your own products, courses, books, coaching. Build your own platform and community that you own. Diversify revenue across multiple sources. Control the customer relationship. Keep much more profit. Vertical integration for content creators means owning the customer relationship, not just renting attention from platforms. It means not depending solely on YouTube ad revenue that could disappear tomorrow if algorithms change. It means building email lists of thousands or millions of people you can communicate with directly. It means creating products you sell directly without platform middlemen. It means integration. A content creator who masters content creation, core, then captures email addresses, backward integration to own audience data, then creates and sells products directly, forward integration to distribution, then builds a comprehensive education business, is following Rockefeller's strategy exactly. Example 2. Service business. Poor approach. Offer a service like personal training or consulting. Rely entirely on referrals and word of mouth. Use third-party booking platforms like ClassPass or Booking.com that take 20 to 30% fees. Accept whatever margins remain after everyone else takes their cut. Stay small and local. Rockefeller approach. Offer the service and master it, core competency. Build your own booking and scheduling system so you don't pay platform fees. Control distribution. Create your own marketing system to generate leads without depending on platforms. Backward integration to control customer acquisition. Develop products related to your service like training programs, meal plans, or equipment. Forward integration into products. Scale with systems and potentially franchising. Horizontal expansion. A personal trainer could just train clients one-on-one forever. Or they could create workout programs that people buy. Product integration. Build a supplement line. Product diversification. Open their own gym. Backward integration to control facilities. Develop an online training platform. Forward integration to distribution. And franchise the model. Horizontal expansion. Each integration move increases profit margins and reduces dependencies. Example 3. E-commerce business. Poor approach. Sell products exclusively on Amazon. Let Amazon control everything: the platform, customer data, delivery, pricing, everything. Amazon takes 30% or more. You have no customer data at all. You can't even email your own customers. Complete dependency on one platform that could change its rules tomorrow and destroy your business. Rockefeller approach. Manufacture or design your own products. Backward integration to control supply and quality. Build your own e-commerce website where you control everything. Control distribution. Create your own shipping and fulfillment solution or partner strategically. Logistics control. Use Amazon as one channel among many, not your only channel. Diversification. Build an email list and customer database. Own the customer relationship. Eventually expand to retail stores. Forward integration to physical retail. You keep much more profit because you're not paying Amazon's 30%. You control customer relationships so you can remarket to them forever. You build real brand equity. You create a sellable business asset. This is thinking like Rockefeller. The point is this, my friend. Vertical integration isn't just for giant corporations with billions in capital. It's not just for oil barons in the 1800s. It's a strategy that anyone can apply, at any scale, in any industry. The principle is universal. The applications are unlimited. Ask yourself these questions. What parts of my value chain do I not control? What middlemen are taking my profits? What could I bring in-house? What integration is possible for me right now? What's my first integration move? Start where you are right now. Start with what you have. Master your core competency. Then integrate one step at a time, just like Rockefeller did, just like Bezos did, just like every wealth builder throughout history has done. So here's your action step for this chapter. Identify one specific integration opportunity in your business or income source. One thing you're currently outsourcing or depending on others for that you could potentially bring in-house. One area where you could take back control and keep more profit. Then make a concrete plan to integrate that piece. Not tomorrow, not someday. Make an actual plan with specific steps. Not all at once, not instantly, but systematically over the next 6 to 12 months. Build your own version of vertical integration, one piece at a time. Maybe you're a freelancer. Your first integration move might be building your own website instead of depending on Upwork or Fiverr. That's your distribution channel. That's forward integration. Maybe you're a small business owner. Your first integration move might be bringing manufacturing in-house instead of outsourcing to China. That's backward integration for quality and cost control. Maybe you're an investor. Your first integration move might be buying rental properties instead of just investing in REITs. That's direct ownership instead of paying management fees to middlemen. Whatever your situation, there's an integration opportunity. Find it. Plan it. Execute it. This is how you apply Rockefeller's strategy today. This is how you build real wealth. This is the path. Remember, vertical integration is timeless. The logic never changes. Modern billionaires still use it. Bezos, Musk, Jobs all followed Rockefeller. You can use it at any scale. It's not just for billion-dollar businesses. Start with one integration move. Master core, then integrate one step. Build systematically over time. Patience plus urgency. Create your own competitive advantages. That's how wealth is built. Poor people depend on systems others control. Rich people build systems they control. Poor people pay middlemen forever. Rich people eliminate middlemen systematically. Poor people stay small. Rich people integrate and scale. Which will you be? The choice is yours, but the strategy is proven. The examples are everywhere. The opportunity is now. All that remains is your decision and your execution. The strategy that changes everything. My friend, we've covered the complete strategy that made Rockefeller rich. We've gone deep. We've been thorough. Now let me bring it all together in a way that you can remember, internalize, and apply immediately. The strategy is vertical integration, controlling the entire value chain from raw materials to end customer, owning every step from beginning to end, eliminating wasteful middlemen who extract value while adding little, creating competitive advantages at every level, building a system where advantages multiply and compound. The mindset that enables the strategy is long-term thinking, systems thinking, and patient urgency. Think in decades, not quarters. See connections and cascade effects, not isolated pieces. Be patient about ultimate outcomes, but urgently execute every single day. This mindset is the foundation without which the strategy crumbles. The execution is systematic and follows a clear sequence. First, master your core. Become excellent at one thing before expanding. Second, integrate backward to control supply. Eliminate dependencies on suppliers. Third, integrate forward to control distribution. Own the customer relationship. Fourth, consolidate horizontally for scale. Achieve size advantages through strategic acquisition. Fifth, expand geographically while maintaining integration. Build a true empire that spans markets. The modern application is universal and accessible. Content creators can integrate. Service providers can integrate. E-commerce sellers can integrate. Real estate investors can integrate. Technology entrepreneurs can integrate. Anyone in any field can apply this strategy at any scale. The principles are timeless. The tactics adapt to your specific situation. This is the strategy that created the greatest fortune in American history. $400 billion in today's money. More than Gates, Bezos, and Musk combined. And it's the same strategy creating the largest fortunes today. Same principles, same logic, same fundamental approach, same results. Massive, sustained, compound wealth. But here's what you absolutely must understand. Knowledge without action is completely worthless. It's less than worthless because it creates the illusion of progress without actual progress. You know the strategy now. You understand vertical integration. You see how Rockefeller applied it. You recognize how modern billionaires use it. You have the knowledge, but knowing changes nothing. Understanding creates no wealth. Only execution creates results. Only action builds empires. Only implementation generates money. So what will you actually do? Not what will you think about doing. Not what you might do someday. Not what you'll consider possibly, perhaps, maybe doing. What will you actually do? Starting this week. Starting tomorrow. Starting today. Will you stay dependent on others who control your supply, your distribution, your profits? Or will you start integrating systematically? Will you let middlemen continue extracting value while you do the work? Or will you bring those functions in-house and keep the profits? Will you accept standard industry structures that benefit everyone except you? Or will you rebuild your business around vertical integration? The choice is entirely yours. No one can make it for you. But the strategy is proven beyond any doubt. Rockefeller proved it over 40 years and created the greatest fortune in history. Modern billionaires prove it every single day as they build $100 billion empires. The evidence is overwhelming. The strategy works. The question is simply whether you'll apply it. If this audiobook provided significant value, if you learned something genuinely useful, I need you to do 3 specific things. First, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Hit that bell icon, because we're building a community of people who understand that wealth is strategic, not lucky. People who study what actually works instead of chasing fantasies. People who are committed to building real wealth through proven principles. Join us. Be part of this movement. Second, Share this video with someone who needs to learn this strategy. Someone with a business who's stuck paying middlemen forever. Someone building wealth who doesn't understand integration. Someone trying to scale but doesn't know how. Someone who would benefit from understanding Rockefeller's approach. Send them this link. It could literally change their financial life forever. Third, drop a comment below right now. Tell me, what's one specific integration opportunity you've identified in your business or wealth building? What's one concrete step you could take toward controlling more of your value chain? What's your first integration move? Share your commitment publicly. Hold yourself accountable. Make it real. Let me tell you something, my friend. I genuinely believe in you. I believe you can apply this strategy. I believe you can think like Rockefeller thought. I believe you can build wealth through intelligent vertical integration. I believe you have what it takes to succeed at a high level. But my belief isn't enough. Your potential isn't enough. Your knowledge isn't enough. You have to take action. You have to start integrating. You have to execute the strategy systematically. You have to do the actual work. Rockefeller started with literally nothing. No money, no connections, no advantages, just knowledge, strategy, and relentless execution. He built the greatest fortune in history. Not through luck, not through inheritance, not through connections, through strategic vertical integration applied consistently, intelligently, systematically for 4 decades. You can do the same. Different scale, perhaps. Different industry, definitely. Different time period, obviously. But same fundamental strategy. Same core principles. Same basic approach. Same logical foundation. Start today. Right now, this moment. Identify your first integration opportunity. Make a concrete plan with specific steps and specific timelines. Take action this week, not next month, this week. Build systematically month after month. Think long-term but execute urgently. Apply the strategy. Trust the process. The wealth will follow. Thank you for listening, my friend. Thank you for investing this time in learning. Thank you for being someone who studies success instead of just hoping for luck. Now go out and apply the strategy that made Rockefeller rich. Build your integrated system. Create your competitive advantages. Build your wealth. The strategy is yours. The knowledge is yours. The opportunity is yours. The only thing remaining is execution. Your execution. Your commitment. Your action. Let's build wealth together, one integration at a time, one step at a time, starting right now. Your empire awaits. Go build it.